SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
Did you know Toyota of Brookhaven has sold more new vehicles the last 2 years than any other dealership in Southwest Mississippi? Come see why. Exit 40 Brookhaven or online at ToyotaBrookhaven.com. Great service, great savings. At Toyota of Brookhaven, we deliver.
Oh, yeah.
Good morning, Mississippi.
Everything gonna be all right this morning.
Mornings with Richard Cross.
Oh, yeah.
Here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Woo! Now, when I was a young boy, at the age of 5, my mother said I was gonna be the greatest man alive. But now I'm a man.
Good morning. This is Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. Welcome. Glad to have you along for the ride this morning on what could be a bumpy day weather-wise. Got the threat of severe weather across much of the state of Mississippi today. I guess it is that time of year. So be weather aware and know for sure that we will keep you up to date throughout the day on SuperTalk Mississippi. If there are any storms to keep an eye out for, stuff that is approaching your area, we've got you covered. I've also got you covered in terms of being part of this conversation. You can join us on the C Spire text line 601-879-4395. Give your business the edge with gigabit fiber internet from C Spire. Check them out online at cspire.com. C Spire is customer inspired. I don't have my normal backdrop, right? No bookshelf, no football helmets. It's just the kind of ugly curtains in the hotel room. I'm coming to you from Columbia, South Carolina this morning. I've got a basketball game tonight, South Carolina and Georgia. Lance is in Studio X powering the ship. Good morning, my friend.
Good morning. Glad to see you, bud. I like the change up every now and again. You know, they don't have the couch for you, but hopefully when that sun pops up, you will be on the right side of the building. You know, the room won't go dark on us, and you got to shift around too much.
I haven't even opened the curtains to try that. We were like in the witness protection program last time we tried this. The light was just perfect, and then it was absolutely awful. So, yeah, we're going to keep you up to date. Going to be, around 70 degrees for much of the state of Mississippi. Starting you off this morning, 58 in Gulfport, 54 in Oxford. Over the Delta in Greenville, it's 57. A little cooler on the eastern side of the state of Meridian this morning. It is 48 degrees there. And going to warm up into the upper 60s, low 70s. A lot of instability in the air, though. And you've got the possibility of severe weather. And, Lance, that's something we're keeping an eye on and always just kind of goes with the territory this time of year.
The wind is going to be what it looks like to be the worst part of this. The rain, I'm sure, is always something you got to be aware of, especially in the low spots and the roads. But be careful with the wind. I mean, you know, we had a lot of dead trees, and there's still a lot of those pines that are lingering around. So, folks, if you're getting out early this morning, I don't believe the wind's going to be kicking too bad early, but just be careful because it's going to get on up there today. Seeing gusts in the 20 to 40 mile an hour range, kind of all over the state, and rain. So, as it wet and it gets everything soaked, those trees have a tendency to start falling. So just be super careful because, like Richard said, it may be a little testy today. And when you reschedule Fat Tuesday for earlier down on the coast, you know that there's some weather coming.
Yeah. Gonna be careful with that. Windy and heavy thunderstorms today, and I'm just looking at Oxford. High around 65, winds 20 to 30 miles an hour, and the chance of rain is 100%. You know those meteorologists normally give themselves a little bit of wiggle room? A 94% chance. When it says there is a 100% chance of rain, just go ahead and get ready. The birthdays today, I don't know. We can rewind 9 months and see what was going on at this particular time in history, but not a lot of great birthdays on either March 3rd or March 4th. I only went with one,
I got one good one, and I've used this one before, so it's
the worst mother in the history of cinema did not leave her child behind once when she went on a family trip. She did it twice. Kate McAllister, Kevin McAllister's mother, Catherine O'Hara. Birthday today, 1954, the Canadian-born actress celebrating her birthday. Bad mom.
Bad mama. Well, Daddy's pretty bad, too. He was kind of spaced out, never really paid too much attention. He was kind of nonchalant about it.
Yeah. What do you got? What's your birthday?
Let's see what we got here. See if you can recognize this feller.
If we kick off, but the rest of these teams walk, let's run down fast. This is as fast as you can run. And then we go on defense. And on defense, I want the center in and out of that line according to the situation.
We're going to go. We're going to go. Go.
I want you guys charging through as far as you can go. On every play. They expect to play right over you every time.
You know who that is, right?
Newt Rockne?
Yeah, Newt Rockne's birthday today. The great Newt Rockne. 1931 would have been.
We're going to get him on the run, boys, and then we're going to go. We're going to go.
Yeah. That whole speech, it just ramps up as you keep going. It gets louder and louder. And you don't hear people talk like that anymore. They're just very unique and a great coach.
The inauguration for President of the United States has not always been on the 20th of January. There was a time when March 4th was the day. In 1801, Thomas Jefferson is the first president to be inaugurated in Washington, D.C. In 1961, Abraham Lincoln inaugurated as the 16th president. 1933, Franklin D. Roosevelt inaugurated as the 32nd president. He pledges to pull the United States out of the Depression, stating in his inaugural address the famous words, "The only thing we have to fear is fear itself." Yeah, big day historically in terms of presidential inaugurations.
Yeah, well, we have that for you. That's
Let me assert my firm belief that the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
I had that ready for you. Another good one. Another good one for you today. Little trivia. Who had the shortest presidential inauguration speech in history, and who had the longest? Tick-tock, tick-tock.
The longest
we know him because he didn't make
President
it through.
Donald J. Trump.
Well,
number 47.
William Henry Harrison gave the longest, it says. I don't know if it's been updated, but 8,443 words. Did that on March 4th, 1841. Day was cold, blustery. Harrison caught a chill, which ultimately led to his death a month later. G-Dub, though, old George Washington. George Washington gave the shortest inauguration speech in history, March 4th, 1793. And it was only 133 words. Got to the point and said, I'm out of here. So that was the trivia.
Friends, thank you for being here today. All right, friends, thank you for being here today. I mean, that's 7 right there.
Yeah, you're getting there. You're getting close now. Right. Hey, Martha, where's my breakfast? Yeah. If there's something like that out there. But, yeah, that's amazing. 8,400 words versus 133 words. So the first president, he knew how to get to the point. And I think we've just made it a little bit more theatrical since then, potentially. So that's what I got.
Today is Fat Tuesday. Tomorrow, Ash Wednesday, which means the Lent season begins. Mardi Gras, just like not anybody where we live needs to know this, but there are people in other parts of the country that don't necessarily realize that Mardi Gras is not a day. It is not a weekend. It is a season. The carnival season. It begins 12 days after Christmas on January 6th and then lasts until Fat Tuesday. And Fat Tuesday changes from a little bit later this year. We've had some early February, but that means we're going to have a little bit later Easter as well. Mardi Gras began in medieval Europe, starting in Rome and then making its way to France. The tradition then made its way through the colonies, and around 1699, French Canadians arrived in what is now Mobile, Alabama, and they brought their tradition with them. What a tradition it is. Great Mardi Gras celebrations all over the place. This past weekend was the big one, right? You had all the big parties in New Orleans. And bad pun here, but kind of raining on Mardi Gras parade today.
Yeah, I don't know, though, if it really matters to those that really are into it either. I mean, I know the floats and all that are a ton of work, but, man, yeah, the folks that enjoy Mardi Gras, they enjoy Mardi Gras, period, I think. You know, no doubt.
Right.
And I don't blame them. It's amazing. What a great celebration.
Have you ever gone down and been on a crew?
I've never been on a crew before. No, I have not. But I've heard it's a lot of fun. You've been?
Yeah.
What is that like?
No, I have not.
I was gonna say, what is that like? I'm sure it's a trip.
No, I haven't. And don't, I mean, forgive me if this sounds curmudgeon-y. I don't have any interest at all in Mardi Gras. I mean, the parades are cool and the costumes and all of that good stuff. I don't love playing dress up.
I don't
maybe
do that
that's just my thing.
I'll put on some camo.
So, now I do love a king cake.
Oh yeah, there's some good ones, aren't there?
Do love a king cake.
There, one of them has been rated. I think it was
morning.
Paul's or something like that. It's been rated numero uno.
We have got a running ton of news headlines that we will get to with you when we come back. Just getting started. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk, Mississippi. C-Spire text line is open, 601-879-4395. We're back with you right after this.
From the Venom.
Good morning, everybody. Time to wake up.
Time to shine!
Start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
She traveled all around, all across this country. Met a lot of people, made a lot of friends. She got the feeling of a swamp plane running through her blood. She going back home, but she don't know when.
Tuesday morning, the 4th day of March 2025. Richard Cross, Lance Tolbert with you. This is Mornings with Richard Cross. Thanks for spending the early part of your day with us, whether it's on the radio, on SuperTalk TV, you're listening online at supertalk.fm, or maybe it's not the early part of your day. Maybe you are consuming via podcast a little bit later in the day, which you can download for free wherever you get your podcasts. Just search Mornings with Richard Cross. We're glad to be with you. We got a lot to get to this morning. First of all, beginning this summer, wine lovers will be able to order to their homes after Governor Reeves officially signed a bill making Mississippi the latest state to allow direct wine shipments. Senate Bill 2145 passed both chambers of the legislature last month before the Republican governor gave his stamp of approval. Under the soon-to-be-enacted law, up to 12 cases of wine can be shipped to residents per year as long as someone 21 or older is there to show ID when signing for the order. This gets started on July 1st. Republican Senator Walter Michel said the new bill will benefit the state's coffers. You've got people willing to pay hundreds of dollars on a bottle that we're going to put a 15.5% tax on. And the state will not even have to inventory that product, Michelle said. 3% of that tax will go to mental health services, with the remaining being stowed away in the general funds. Lawmakers still mulling over some other alcohol-related legislation, including one that would allow liquor stores to be open on Sunday. House Bill 92 passed the House. It is awaiting approval from the Senate Finance Committee before it can head to the floor for a full vote. Lance, you can correct me on this if I am wrong, or you can out there as well. I believe this is the only bill that has been sent to the governor's desks.
I think so
far.
Yeah, I mean,
is that right?
I asked them to put up a moonshine bill, but I haven't seen that one yet. But yeah, that's the only one I've seen really get there yet.
It may be that I've missed another bill that both chambers have passed and has gone to the governor for signature and has been signed. I don't think so, though. So, in terms of priorities, got to get that the wine shipped to the house, get that done, and now you can get to some other things as well. Johnny in West Point, I heard you talking about the wine deal. Does that include whiskey, bourbon? No, Johnny, It does not. It does not. You can't get that shipped to your house, only wine. The early voting bill, that one's on life support. Support for the Senate's early voting legislation has dwindled in the House. Representative Noah Stanford, who is chair of the Apportionment and Elections Committee, says the House lacks support for early voting and has amended SB 2654, replacing early voting provisions with an expanded version of absentee voting. And that expanded version would allow you to not have to lie about why you were voting early. It would allow you to say, I got to work. I think I'm going to be out of town. And then you do the absentee ballot. And it also states that you have to place your ballot into a secure voting machine. I'm assuming that would be in the clerk's office. Outlines that all ballots should be counted and reported to the tabulating center on the night of the election. Now, you remember that this House action comes after Governor Reeves went to social media to go after Jeremy England after passage in the Senate, saying that early voting was a terrible idea. He took issue with England and said that he was the MVP for the Mississippi Democratic Party in pushing the legislation forward. Carl Dean. Is that a name that you recognize? Carl Dean is the behind-the-scenes, you never heard from him, very few pictures, devoted husband of nearly 60 years to the great Dolly Parton. Avoided the spotlight, and he inspired her timeless hit, Jolene. He was 82 years old. According to a statement provided to the Associated Press, Dean died in Nashville. He will be laid to rest in a private ceremony for just immediate family. Did you know, Lance, that Dolly and Carl met at a laundromat?
No. As I was reading that, I learned so much this morning. Thank you. Or last night.
They met outside the Wishy-Washy laundromat the day that she moved to Nashville at the age of 18. And you know what Dolly said about that meeting? In very typical Dolly fashion, I was surprised and delighted that while he talked to me, he looked at my face. A rare thing for me. He seemed to be genuinely interested in finding out who I was and what I was about. Rest in peace, Carl Dean. Condolences to Dolly Parton.
I mean, I didn't know I ever even had heard Carl Dean's name until I read that last night, and I know that's pretty stupid of me not to know who her significant other was.
Oh, good.
But, man, that was news to me, and what a great story.
That cat has laid low for a long time.
Yeah, he's more laid low than Stedman. You know, that wasn't in that.
That's Oprah's boat.
Yeah, Oprah's boat. I mean, he shows up every now and again, but yeah, I've never seen Carl Dean.
Yeah. Last night was not a banner night in the United States Senate. I suppose that depends on your perspective. Parliamentary procedure in play. Republicans needed 60 votes to pass a bill that would ban men from playing in women's sports, boys from playing in girls' sports.
Ooh.
Really, really controversial issue. You got girls' sports. This guy's biologically a male. He wants to play with them because he identifies as a female. Are we okay with that? Well, we're not. They are. A Republican-led Senate bill to prevent boys from participating in girls' sports failed to overcome the legislative filibuster because it did not reach the necessary 60 votes.
Needed some Dems on that one, and they stuck to party lines. Not one nope. Democrat, not a male senator who has a daughter, not a female senator who has fought for women's rights, not one Democrat senator voted in favor of the bill. 51-45, 2 Democrats were not there. Alyssa Slotkin from Michigan, Peter Welch of Vermont. They wouldn't have voted for it anyway. The Protection of Women and Girls in Sports Act would require Title IX to treat gender as recognized based solely on a person's reproductive biology and genetics at birth. Now, the opponents against this would say, no, that's sex. Gender is an idea. Well, is a basketball game an idea, or does it actually happen? Or a boxing match where a girl gets beat up by a guy? That actually happens, though, right?
The bill was introduced by Tommy Tuberville, the Republican from Alabama. It had 40 co-sponsors in the Senate. So, now, do not fret. This doesn't change anything today. Donald Trump has put an executive order in banning boys and men from playing in girls' and women's sports. So it can't happen. Here's the difference. This bill in the Senate would codify that, making it far more difficult for us to go back to the way it was instead of sticking with the way it is. Because the next time you have a Democrat president, he or she could just rescind Donald Trump's executive order, therefore opening the doors for whomever to play wherever based on how they feel when they wake up that morning. Oh, and I love the opponents of the bill that go, this is making a mountain out of a molehill. There are only 10 of these cases currently in the NCAA. Well, it's 10 too many. That's 10 times too many. Do you remember when Riley Gaines was on with us earlier this year, and she said, with regard to having to compete against Leah Thomas, she's like, he changed in our locker room. I've never felt more uncomfortable. He just stripped down, he, she, whatever, stripped down naked. While we are, she said, with these tight swimsuits, it takes a minute to get into them, and you're kind of squirming, and it's not like your most glamorous time, and the women in the locker room are around other women, and then all of a sudden there's a dude in there in all of his naked glory in the women's locker room while competing.
Yeah, I had a whole lecture planned for that one. I'm going to just not say a word.
The FBI field office in New York, James Dennehy, was forced to resign his post. He claims he was not given a reason why, but the Department of Justice has accused his office of refusing to hand over a trove of Epstein documents to Attorney General Pam Bondi. After Trump was elected, Dennehy also told his office to, quote, dig in, close quote. James Dennehy said in a message to colleagues obtained by the Associated Press that he was told on Friday to put in his retirement papers, and he wasn't given a reason. He knew the reason. Also from Dennehy yesterday, I've been told many times in my life, when you find yourself in a hole, sometimes it's best to quit digging. Screw that. I will never stop defending this joint. I'll just do it willingly and proudly from outside the wire.
Start your day right.
Good morning, America. How are you?
Honestly, I have no idea.
Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Ceasefire text line open and hot early this morning. Kyle says it's been a few days and nobody in the media is mentioning why Elon broke out the chainsaw. That's a pretty fine chainsaw he had as well. Now, I tend to favor a chainsaw that has orange on it. A couple of brands that fall into that category. That looked more like a Tesla chainsaw.
Yeah, that's got to be what's coming, you know.
Well, they make the battery-powered chainsaws. There are a lot of people that swear by them.
Oh, I didn't know Tesla made one. Yeah, the battery-powered ones are great.
No, Tesla doesn't make chainsaws.
Oh, I thought that's what I was saying. Maybe that's next, you know.
Maybe.
Tesla chainsaws.
But the point Kyle was making was chainsaw economics should be the buzz on every broadcast. I don't know if they are uneducated or don't want to show the truth. Argentina's president beat inflation in less than a year with chainsaw economics. Check it out. You're right. And, I mean, that is I think you've got a little bit of an English or a writing background, because that is a very cleverly written post on the ceasefire text line. Either that or you're really lucky, Kyle. Yes, it is the buzz, or should be the buzz. And it's really simple. Chainsaw economics is cutting everything. Cut. And you know what they're doing in Argentina right now? They are celebrating a booming economy. Booming less than a year. It's painful. It's not easy. But you get the reward in a hurry. A few years ago, I had the opportunity to go to Cologne, Germany. Beautiful city. Absolutely. It is my favorite cathedral that I have ever been in my life. I've been to Europe twice back in college. And we were staying in Belgium. You just jump on a train and go, 30 minutes right over the border, and you are in Germany. And the cathedral in Cologne, Germany was spectacular. Lance, you walk through the doors, and it was like 50 degrees. It's like, oh, yeah, this feels like an ancient cathedral, like Gothic. It's what it ought to feel like. It says it happened to be during Carnival. A great experience, religious experience, a memory that I will never forget. Yeah, really big deal in Europe. The Mardi Gras season, Carnival season. Dong Fong is the highly sought-after king cake.
Okay, that's the one.
Is that the one you were thinking about?
No, there was a Paul's, and then there was another one. I've had like 2 or 3 during the season, and they were all great. And the more cream cheese in them, the better for me. I kind of like that. But
we had one sent to us from New Orleans. Rouse's is the big supermarket in that part of the world, and it was a cinnamon one. And, brother, it was almost like a cinnamon roll king cake, and it was spectacular. Oh, so good. A couple of other messages on the C Spire text line. You guys are starting to send us kratom displays from gas stations that you see. Somebody says you can even see it in my handicap van in the reflection. CC says there's going to be a special place in hell for these dudes spitting in God's face by pretending to be girls, and everyone who supports them, I pray they repent and stop it with that nonsense. Okay.
I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
Kind of a crazy.
All right, let's jump into some sports headlines. By the way, Congressman Mike Ezell will join us about 45 minutes from right now. Look forward to a conversation with him. Also, Danielle Morgan from the Mississippi Tourism Association. She is the director there. Good stuff happening as people are visiting the Magnolia State. How do we continue to grow that? We'll talk with Danielle about that coming up as well. 5 SEC basketball games are happening tonight. One of them involving a team from the state of Mississippi. 8 o'clock tip-off tonight in Starkville. Mississippi State is a 7.5-point favorite against the Texas Longhorns. There are a lot of people that are opining that Rodney Terry's days in Austin are done. Mississippi State is an NCAA tournament team, period. Anything they do beyond this is about getting a better seed. Texas at home, at Arkansas, that's how Bulldogs will finish out the regular season. Mississippi State favored by 7.5. And Josh Hubbard has been playing really, really well. Coming up off of a 30-point performance. State didn't play particularly well against LSU on Saturday, this past Saturday. In fact, they trailed at the half. They did what they had to do in the second half, and they got it done. Got her done. They did. And so, Lance, it's been a while. I think people have forgotten how much fun the NCAA tournament is.
Ooh, yeah.
Now, it hasn't been a while for Mississippi State. They've been there the last 2 seasons under Chris Jans. We are going to have both Mississippi State and Ole Miss in the NCAA men's basketball tournament, and March Madness is fun.
Oh, it's awesome. I mean, you have both teams are 20-9, correct? I mean, both seem to be plagued with the same problem at times, and that's, the bucket seems to get a little tight. It's almost like you're at the fair, and you're trying to shoot that ball in there, and that bucket's just a little bent up. But when they're hot, they're hot. And that's the thing about either of these teams. They can beat anybody when they're on, and when they're off, they can get beat by anybody. So, but that's what makes the tournament so much fun is you get in there and you got to win. You got to keep winning. And I always love that as an athlete is having your back against the wall a bit, knowing that there's not a whole lot of margin of error. You seem to, you find out what you're made of more that way. And I think both of these teams have a shot to do some good stuff in the tournament.
I agree. Got to play well, though. You got to play well. Mm-hmm. Got to, have a little luck with the draw that you get, matchups that you get. So I said 5 games tonight. Georgia is at South Carolina. South Carolina playing better as of late after an 0-11 start, 0-12 start in SEC. I guess 0-13 start in SEC play. They've won 2 out of their last 3, including walloping the Arkansas Razorbacks this past Saturday. Georgia coming off a really, really big week. Got a couple of wins. Georgia is playing for its NCAA tournament life. That game is tonight at 6 o'clock on the SEC Network. I would encourage you to watch. That's just me, though.
Yeah, maybe a little invested interest in there. I'm going to watch it because I know who's calling that baby.
5 o'clock Central. 5 o'clock Central. 6 o'clock Central, LSU is at number 19, Kentucky. And then at 8 o'clock, that Texas-Mississippi State game is actually at 7. I said 8 earlier. My apologies. That is at 7. 8 o'clock on ESPN, number 1 Auburn, number 22 Texas A&M, an A&M team that is reeling. They've lost 4 in a row. And Arkansas is at Vanderbilt. A triple header tonight on the SEC Network with games at 5, 7, and 9. Arkansas and Vandy tonight on the SEC Network. You also had baseball. And I say it in the past tense because everybody's been looking at the forecast. Yesterday, Ole Miss announced that they were canceling their game with Southeastern Louisiana. It will not be rescheduled for a future date. Ole Miss will play Murray State tomorrow. First pitch for that ball game is scheduled for 4 o'clock. And then Mississippi State and Southern Miss were getting ready for round 2. You remember Southern Miss beat Mississippi State a couple of weeks ago. Same issue. Postponed, though, not canceled, which is good news because that's a fun matchup. Due to the threat of inclement weather for this afternoon, Mississippi State is moving its midweek matchup with number 20 Southern Miss back a day. The Bulldogs and Golden Eagles are now scheduled to meet on Wednesday, that is tomorrow, at 4 p.m., and then you got basketball at Humphrey Coliseum tonight, just across the way. Southern Miss won 3-0 back on February 18th in the first meeting. Lance, there continue to be projected 13 SEC men's basketball teams in the NCAA tournament.
And it's 68 now? Do you have a 68
68.
field? Yeah, so, that's amazing, isn't it? 13 out of 68?
Yeah.
Wow. Has there ever been a time?
Field.
Yeah, exactly. I was trying to do some quick math. You're better at that than I am. But that's phenomenal. That should say a lot about how the season has kind of progressed. Everyone said it was going to be a tough year, but as you get this deep in it, and it actually happened, rarely do things work that way. But 13 in, man, a lot.
Well, and you might look at it if you don't love the SEC, you go, what a sham. How is it they're doing that? And the formula is pretty simple. The SEC played a good non-conference schedule, like as a league. All 16 teams played a good, challenging non-conference schedule, and everybody won. And so you build that early season resume where your strength of schedule is good. You have no bad losses as a league. Everybody has won a bunch of games, and then you roll into conference play and you only play each other. And it just becomes this self-fulfilling prophecy where it's like good win or good win and good win and good win and no bad losses. And you get to the point where everybody's metrics are really good because that's heavily what the NCAA Tournament Selection Committee looks at. And that's how you get 2 number 1 seeds and 2 number 2 seeds and a number 3 seed and a number 4 seed and 9 others. That's what it's going to look like. Maybe. We'll see. Lottery update coming up next.
Good morning.
Good morning to you there.
Okay, up and at 'em. Start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
What's up, friends? Laissez-les bon temps rouler. Happy Fat Tuesday. We'll try to let the good times roll around here on Mornings with Richard Cross. Two quick notes, kind of related to news headlines. Pam Bondi said to Sean Hannity last night that they got a truckload of Jeffrey Epstein files on Friday. Kash Patel, the director of the FBI, is sorting through those now. I don't know if he himself is doing it or he's got people that are doing it. Pam Bondi said, we got them all Friday at 8 a.m., thousands of pages of documents. I have the FBI going through them now. You remember, she said an 8 a.m. deadline on Friday for the field office in New York, and then they sent a truck. Not playing games there. That's number one. Number two, speaking of not playing games, yesterday, the president announced that we are pausing all military aid to Ukraine. He's serious when he says the war is going to come to an end. He's serious about it. And you don't believe me? Okay. Go fight it yourself. Because we're done.
We'll see how good a friend Europe really is.
Yeah, sure will. All right, lottery update brought to you by the Mississippi Lottery. Find them online, mslottery.com. We start with, what do we start with? We start with Lotto America. It is now over $25.5 million. That jackpot keeps growing. The estimated cash value is now over $12 million. Numbers from yesterday, 12, 25, 29, 40, 49. The star ball was 3. The all-star bonus multiplier was 2. Tomorrow night's Powerball jackpot, up to $295 million, $139 million is the cash value. Monday night numbers are March 3rd, from March 3rd, 18, 20, 50, 52, 56, Powerball of 20, Power Play multiplier of 2. I know I've told you this story before, Lance. I got a buddy who's about to be able to play Powerball. His self-imposed rule is not until it goes over $300 million, because anything less than that would just make me a jerk.
Okay. I'd take any of it. Yeah.
That is his personal rule. That is his threshold.
Great discipline.
Anything less than $300 million would just make me a, edited for radio purposes, jerk. And so I'll wait till that point. There you go. Mm-hmm. Give me a double play. Give me some Mega Millions. Give me a match 5. What you got?
Double play numbers from Monday, March 3rd, 9, 34, 54, 67, 69, Powerball of 11. No jackpot winner on the Mega Millions. It's up to $215 million for tonight's drawing, March the 4th. The estimated take-home pay $100 million.9. The numbers from the Friday drawing, the 28th of February, way back when. That was 9, 19, 30, 35, 66, Mega Ball of 16, and a Megaplier multiplier of 3.
You know, that .9 just feels like such a throwaway. And then you say out loud that is representative. That .9 is representative of $900,000.
I'd take that in a heartbeat.
Feels a little less throwy away-y at that point.
Amen, brother.
Match 5, no jackpot winner. Jackpot tonight, $320,000. The numbers for Monday night, 2, 8, 12, 17, and 20.
Well, the Cash 3 $500 midday, 218. Evening numbers, 759. Cash for $5,000 midday numbers, 9053. The evening drawing, 7195. You had a fireball of 4 and a cash pop of 12 in the midday. And the evening was a fireball of 1 and a cash pop of 13.
You know, one of the cool things about the Mississippi Lottery is they never let you get bored.
No.
They'll roll out a promotion and allow it to run its course, and when that promotion ends, they are ready with the new one. We got a new one for you. The Mississippi Lottery has launched the multiplier family of instant scratch-off games. Starting today, Players can multiply the fun and the winnings with the Multiplier family of instant scratch-off games. 4 exciting games at different price points, including a brand-new $3 crossword. There's a multiplier for everyone. So for $2, you can get 10x the money with a top prize of $25,000. On a $3 scratch-off, you can get 15x crossword. A $5 scratch-off, it's 20x the money with a top prize of $100,000. And then 50x the money with a top prize of $200,000. That is on a $10 multiplier family scratch-off. Be sure to grab these new games starting today at your favorite local lottery retailer. I want to tell you that a Tishomingo man won $18,200 on 7 tickets from Sprint Mart in Iuka. That was on Cash 4. On Fun Fives, a Raleigh man won $5,000 on a ticket from Clark's. A Chula man won $5,000 on a ticket from Lexington Home Center. That was on a $5 Stacks of Cash scratch-off. You can be a winner, too, but only if you play. You can play through the Mississippi Lottery. We're back with you. 7 o'clock hour is next. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Dreams about night things in the middle of the afternoon. And while my hands make a living, my mind's home loving you.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, and callers on this show are not the opinions of TeleSouth Communications, its management, or advertisers.
Wake up!
Wake up! Rise and shine!
Start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross.
Nice early morning surprise.
On Super Talk, Mississippi.
Good morning. 7 o'clock hour. Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi. Thanks for making us part of the start of your day. As you head out the door this morning, we remind you, may want to grab an umbrella. You might want to grab a windbreaker or a rain jacket of some sort, or just be willing to get wet. You know the worst part, Lance, is on a rainy day, it's like, what shoes do you wear?
I wear ones that don't have holes in them.
Well, that's a good plan. And I don't mean like from a fashion standpoint, what shoes should I wear? It's like tennis shoes that get wet are miserable. And they're miserable whether you have socks on or you don't have socks on. If you don't have socks on and you're wearing tennis shoes, they stink. If you do have socks on and you're wearing tennis shoes and your socks get wet, that's miserable. You don't want to wear leather loafers because when they get wet, they kind of start bleeding on the inside, and it just the water line's gross.
I'm a boot man.
I guess boots is the answer.
Yeah, I wear boots constantly. So I can't remember the last time I put on a pair of running shoes if I wasn't running. That's just so yeah. I'm a boot man, and I had a leak in my last pair, so I had to upgrade. And man, it's been amazing ever since.
There you go. You have a particular brand of boots that you lock in on?
The cheapest ones, Ariat, works great for me. I'm not going with the Tony Lamas or anything.
Those aren't the cheapest ones. Ariat makes good boots.
No, as far as from the mainstream ones, I suppose. Yeah, I go with the Ariat. I've had quite a few pair. I was a Red Wing guy for a while, but they just got harder to find in what I liked. So, but Ariat's done a great job for me. I've blown through quite a few of them.
There's a company based in Pontotoc, I believe it is. Pontotoc
Progressive?
County.
Isn't that the shoe place?
No, that's a shoe store.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Oh, man.
I used to shop there all the time.
I used to always go to Progressive growing up to get boots and dress shoes.
You got that right.
I went over there.
That's how I used to roll in Oxford when I was in college. You just went to Progressive, man, and they hooked you up.
Yep. Double B boots. They make manufacture boots. They're really good.
Give them a try. Really? I didn't know about them. Now that I do, knowing is half the battle.
I've had a couple of pairs of them. Big fan. All right, tariffs go into effect today, or they went into effect at midnight. And there are people that already wringing their hands over this. President Donald Trump said yesterday 25% taxes on imports from Mexico and Canada would start today. That sparks renewed fears of a North American trade war that already showed signs of pushing up inflation and hindering growth. He said tomorrow's tariffs, 25% on Canada, 25% on Mexico, and that'll start. They're going to have a tariff. Said that in the Roosevelt Room to reporters yesterday. This is one of those cases where I'm going to have to say I don't know. I don't know if this is the right play. There is a very real chance that this does not work out the way that Donald Trump wants it to work out. But here's the other part of what I'm going to say. Why not give it a try? The United States needs to be less dependent on other countries for the products we buy. The United States needs to have more companies from other parts of the world invest here and choose the United States as a hub. You got another $100 billion announcement yesterday from a chip manufacturer in Taiwan that has said, hey, we're going to build a factory, we're going to create a bunch of high-paying jobs, and we're going to do it in the United States. And when that's done, the numbers are the United States will produce about 40% of the world's semiconductor chips. And that's a really good thing. You got an announcement yesterday from Honda that they are going to make the Corolla in Indiana and not in Mexico. Here's the thing on tariffs. Are you willing to go through some short-term pain for a potential long-term payoff? The tariffs thing for the United States is not a short-term strategy. It's not a short-term conversation. This is a longer-term play for economic health for the United States moving forward. We're not real good at short-term pain, though. And the media is really bad at short-term pain because short-term pain creates really splashy headlines. And one of the issues here is what it's going to do to the farm community. And we're going to talk with Congressman Mike Ezell about that coming up in a little while. Where are we on the Farm Bill? What are we doing in terms of relief for farmers in the Mississippi state, in the state of Mississippi, the Southeast, and across the country? Because we know farmers have got it really, really hard. The immediate reaction was the stock market fell in overnight numbers and afternoon trading a little bit. How many times have we talked about it, Lance, though? The stock market goes down, the stock market goes up. The stock market goes down, the stock market goes up. There's been some talk about a sovereign wealth fund. There's been talk about the unsustainability of the Social Security system. Social Security is going to run out of money in 2033. We're in 2025. That's in 8 years. How are you going to do it? Well, you're going to have to find new money for it to make the system solid. Nobody wants to cut Social Security, right? We don't want to cut anything. We only want to add. We want to add and add and add and add and add, and we just think the money's magically going to be there. Well, if you are going to not cut, this is like the most basic economic principle ever, and I've used this example a bunch of times. If you, in your household, in your family, are spending more money than you make, you're going to run out of money. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but eventually. There are two ways, if you are spending more money than you make, to not run out of money. And unless there's some mysterious money tree in your backyard, I only know of two ways. If you are spending more than you make, to not run out of money. Number one, spend less. Number two, make more. Is there a third option that I'm not considering, Lance?
Well, I mean, when you look at the countries that we trade with, I mean, China, we have a 295.
No, not tariffs. Just on that basic example.
That was kind of what I'm saying.
Is there another way?
Yeah. No, I mean, it's the same. I mean, we have a trade imbalance. And same if you're bringing too little in and spending too much money. I mean, yeah, you got to find a way to make more money and spend less. And that's not an easy thing to do.
But to make the math work, the only way you can do it is either spend less or make more.
Right, or a combo of both.
And that's so the United States government, newsflash, is not going to spend less. Things get more expensive, and we can't stop spending money. Can't or won't. Maybe won't stop spending money. So you better make more. How do you do that? You bring in more industry. You bring in more manufacturing. You bring in more jobs. You create more revenue. You do deals with places like Ukraine or Greenland where you are tapping into natural resources that have the ability to generate income. And that's the play that Donald Trump is going with. It's a long-term play. He's smart enough to know that we're not going to spend less. He's not going to spend less. They're going to cut some waste. They're trying to root out some fraud, but they're not going to spend less. So you better find a way to make more money. And that's what this long-term play is about. And, oh, by the way, China is involved too. Trump said China is continuing to manufacture fentanyl with not a lot of oversight. That's getting into the United States. It is now the biggest killer of young people 18 to 45. And he said if China is going to continue to manufacture fentanyl, then we are going to raise the tariff on China. It already was at 10%. It's going to 20%.
And again, that's $295.4 billion of the imbalance between us and just China. $171.8 billion with Mexico. So, we're spending a lot of them with them, but yet we're getting a lot less, of them purchasing our goods. So.
And then the little yapping dog in Canada, Trudeau raised his. He started yapping. Well, then Canada is going to put tariffs in place too, and Mexico trying to kind of figure out what they want to do. By the way, the southern border, lowest border crossings in the month of February, certainly in the last 4 years. It's gone from up in the 100,000 range down to just 8,000 interactions at the southern border this past month, the month of February. Trump said they were going to fix the border problem, and they are in the process with Tom Homan of fixing the border problem. We'll get to some of your messages on the C Spire text line coming up next, 601-879-4395. We're back right after this. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Baby, there ain't no easy way out. Hey, I will stand my ground, and I won't back down.
From the Venable,
reaching across the state and across the aisle. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Well, my daddy never rode in the old famous country song. Papa never stayed out raising hell with the Haggard Jones. But he raised a proud coal miner's daughter, and I'm proud to be her son. She told me, boy, I don't care if you hit it big, because you're already number one. And that's the way it goes in this day and age. Well, you hang out and
Good to be with you this morning. It is Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi. Congressman Mike Ezell will join us in the next segment. We'll talk with him about what's going on in Washington, D.C. Also, get his thoughts on the tariffs that are going into place today with both Canada and Mexico, the increased tariffs in China, how that affects farmers in the United States, what's going on with a new farm bill, what he anticipates tonight in the joint address to Congress. It is not technically a State of the Union address. For there to be a State of the Union, the president has to have been in office for a year. And because there was a gap between the first and second Trump presidencies, this does not qualify. So it is an address to a joint session of Congress. The theme for Trump's address tonight is the renewal of the American dream. He is expected to highlight some of the accomplishments from what the White House is calling his extraordinarily successful first month here and abroad. The yearly presidential address is intended to showcase whatever administration is in charge's achievements and policies. There are a number of congressional Democrats who are skipping the address tonight, very patriotic of them, including Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders. I think 7 at the last count had announced that they weren't going to be there. Chuck Schumer actually encouraged congressional Democrats to not only come, but to bring a +1. And he said the +1 should be someone who has already been hurt by Trump's policies that he has put in place. Theatrics. That's what you've got going on for the presidential address to the joint session tonight. It's going to happen at 8 o'clock Central Time, and probably want to check that out. We'll have some of the clips, some of the highlights from that for you throughout the day. Throughout the show tomorrow morning. By the way, quick fact check. I spoke wrongly. I am very aware that Honda does not make the Corolla. That is Toyota. It's the Honda Civic that is going to be manufactured in Indiana, not in Mexico. So, got that right. Thank you for all of the immediate fact checks.
We got a great fact checker. No, our listeners are amazing.
No doubt. 601-879-4395. 601-879-4395. That's the number if you want to be part of the conversation. So, this pausing of military aid to Ukraine is fascinating. We know about what happened on Friday with Zelensky. We are getting more information, including from the Vice President, J.D. Vance, in an interview that he had with Sean Hannity, where he confirmed that Zelensky or Zelensky's team asked if they could come back into the meeting on Friday after the blow-up where it ended. And Trump's response was twofold. One, no. They were incredibly disrespectful, and we're not going to continue. And 2, and perhaps more importantly, what are we going to talk about? They've made it clear. We had a deal in place. We were supposed to have the meeting in front of the media. Then we were going to have lunch. There was going to be a signing ceremony. The mineral rights deal would be in place. And it would create the opportunity to then go to the negotiating table with Vladimir Putin. You know, big, bad Vladimir Putin. Lance, if you could pull up the clip in the 720 segment. We hear a lot about big, bad Vladimir Putin, and then we're reminded that Trump is not the only United States president that has dealt with Vladimir Putin. You had a clip yesterday that was floating around from George W. Bush when he was in his Ford F-250 driving around on his ranch in Crawford, Texas, with Putin as a passenger, sitting there in the passenger seat. And then in 2014, there was this clip. Piers Morgan interviewing Bill Clinton about Vladimir Putin.
Mr. Putin he's very smart.
But you know him better than most people.
Yeah, I do.
What was he like behind closed doors, away from the sort of the public utterances?
Smart and remarkably, we had a really good, blunt relationship.
How blunt?
Brutally blunt.
Fisticuffs?
No, but I think the right strategy most of the time is, but it's frustrating to people in your line of work. You should be brutally honest with people in private. And then if you want them to help you, try to avoid embarrassing them in public.
Right.
Now, sometimes they do things which make it impossible for you to keep quiet. But by and large, I found all the people I dealt with appreciated it if I told them the truth. How I honestly felt and what our interests were and what our objectives were. And they also appreciated it when I didn't kick them around in public for as long as I couldn't kick them around. So, that's my experience. And
did Putin ever renege on a personal agreement he made to you?
He did not.
So behind closed doors, he could be trusted?
He kept his word.
Don't know if he can be trusted or not, but Bill Clinton says he kept his word with me. He never reneged on a promise that he made with me.
Bill Clinton talking about trust. That's rich.
So when Donald Trump talks about dealing with Vladimir Putin, it's conspiracy, it's aiding a bad guy, it's collusion, it's election interference. But when George W. Bush has Vladimir Putin in the front seat of his 3/4-ton diesel Ford pickup truck, it's diplomacy. When Bill Clinton deals with him behind closed doors, it's international diplomacy. Well, which is it? And oh, by the way, multiple things can be true when it comes to dealing with Russia and it comes to dealing with Vladimir Putin. Is Putin a bad guy? Yes. Has Putin created an oligarch society in Russia that has allowed massive wealth for a small number of people while the Russian people writ large struggle economically? 100%. Did Russia, under the leadership of Vladimir Putin, invade Ukraine? Yes, absolutely. And you shouldn't have any trouble saying that out loud because it happened. We saw it with our own eyes. But do you still have to deal with a foreign leader of a superpower, even if he is a tyrant? Yes, you do. And it doesn't just apply to Russia. Because he's a little more buttoned up, because they are technologically more advanced, most people don't apply the same standards to Xi Jinping in China that they do Vladimir Putin. He is viewed as the same bad guy that Vladimir Putin is, because Putin is Russia and Xi Jinping is China. But do you want to take a look at China's record under Xi Jinping? Do you want to look at the human rights atrocities in the country of China? Do you want to look behind the curtain at what China is doing? Everything China is doing is to make them a bigger player on the global stage as the dominant superpower. And if you don't believe that, you're crazy. But because it's Putin and because it's Russia and because it's Trump and there is this hatred from so many from Trump, it's a different standard. How much pushback do you think came from that interview that Piers Morgan did, and he asked good questions of Bill Clinton? None. It was a fascinating look into the way an American president deals with the leader of a foreign power of whom we are sometimes an adversary and at best just figure out a way to coexist. That's where we are with this thing, and it's why Trump keeps saying, I'm aligned with the United States, I'm aligned with Europe, I'm aligned with the world, and the war is bad. We've got to stop the people dying in this war. How do you do that? You have to get Russia to the negotiating table. And being bullied by Ukraine is not helping that. And Donald Trump said, we're not going to be bullied by you. We'll just shut off the aid, the military aid. How long are you going to be able to fight this war without us? John and Pontotoc, can you trust the Ukrainian government? Absolutely you cannot. Absolutely you cannot. Congressman Mike Ezell joins us next. Mornings with Richard Cross.
From the segment of Mornings with Richard Cross is brought to you by Covington County Hospital in Collins, where your health matters.
And now, Mornings with Richard Cross. What's up?
Let's get the show going.
Super Talk, Mississippi.
Great to be with you on this Tuesday morning. As we've said throughout the morning, be careful out there today. Potential for severe weather in the state of Mississippi. Make sure you give yourself a little bit of extra time. This is Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. The 4th Congressional District of Mississippi is represented by Mike Ezell. Congressman Ezell joins us this morning from his office in Washington, D.C., Southern Miss grad, Pascagoula native. He said he wouldn't mind being in Jackson County and walking around those hills a little bit right now as springtime rolls on. That's right. Still kind of waiting on springtime to get to Washington, D.C. Good morning, Congressman.
Oh. Hey, good morning, Richard, and thank you so much for having me today. That was a nice welcome.
I appreciate your time very much. As we've talked with our congressional delegation in D.C., I feel like a common theme has been it's been busier than anybody can imagine. We know that President Trump has operated at a breakneck speed in these 5 weeks since the inauguration. What has been your experience over the last 5 weeks since the president was inaugurated?
Well, exactly that. I mean, it's like unbelievable daylight till midnight. And, apparently the president doesn't sleep. It has been nonstop. I think I've got 43 meetings just this week trying to get things done, folks coming in and me meeting them and talking to them and trying to make stuff happen. It's got to the point now where I can't wait to wake up in the morning so I can see what Trump did last night. It's just kind of got, back in the groove there of seeing what's happening. And I tell you, it's been pretty neat experience.
I'm not being flippant when I ask this at all, but is there a little bit of it's almost hard even for you and your colleagues to keep up with everything that is happening? I know in terms of covering it and talking about the things that are happening in D.C. and happening in Mississippi, it's a little difficult to keep up with everything. How do you manage that?
Well, I tell you, it's almost like information overload at times. I make notes. I try to do sticky notes. And so my staff comes in here. Thank God we have these smart young folks that are running the country. And, they keep us apprised of everything. These young folks that are here in Washington, D.C., they work as hard as President Trump. I mean, they are in early. They're taking all this information in. They're trying to keep us apprised of everything. And it's like, look, I tell them sometimes, quit talking so fast. I can't hear that fast. Slow it down just a little bit. So, yeah, you're right. Keeping up with Trump is no easy task. And so I'm doing my best. And I think, but what I will tell you, there's such a heightened good feeling up here amongst the Republicans at this time because we're getting some things done. We're trying to get rid of some of these crazy regulations. And it's just a new day. With President and J.D. Vance in there, and it's really exciting.
One of the regulations or series of regulations that has been pulled back, and I know this is important to you, has been the executive order that repeals some of the offshore drilling ban. We know that is a big deal in Mississippi because of the Gulf of America, not the Gulf of Mexico, but some of the drilling that's happening offshore. With Mississippi as well. Talk to us a little bit about that process and what that means for the companies that are engaged in offshore drilling.
Yeah. Well, what it's going to mean is just like the president said, drill, baby, drill. And, Biden did everything he could to shut down America's engine. We'll never get out of this debt until we can start making money. And we can make money off that oil out there in the Gulf. We can sell it. We can do so many different things with it. And for them just to arbitrarily just make it so difficult that we could not use something that has been a great part of the history of America is the oil business and what it does for this country. I mean, look at the jobs it generates, income, it improves people's lives. But they did everything they could do, whether it be in gas and oil or whether it be in digging for minerals, anything that they could do to shut down the American way of life. And thank God Trump got elected, and we're back in power now, and I'm doing everything I can to support his efforts.
Visiting with Congressman Mike Ezell, we were talking earlier this morning about the tariff conversation. We know that the Mexico and Canadian tariffs go into place or went into place at midnight last night at a rate of 25%. That it's increased with China as well. This is I think it's a complicated conversation, and we were talking earlier about the fact that the tariff discussion is not a short-term play. That is a longer-range plan. When you look at that, because there could be some short-term pain, is this a policy that makes sense?
I believe it is. And, one thing I've seen about the president, every time they think he's made some big mistake, it ends up in his favor, and it ends up favoring the American people. So I believe that with the wisdom that Trump brings to, making America great again through job creations, all these various things, yes, there's going to be some difficulty for 6 months. What I believe is that these foreign nations need America a whole lot more than we need them. And it's like one of the things that the president, I heard him say, it's time for America to quit getting ripped off. We've been ripped off for so long until it's almost like we've been beat down. But Trump is transparent. He's not made any secrets about what he's doing. And I believe that in the long run, there's going to be some tough times, I think, ahead until we can get all this stuff figured out. And I think the president has had 4 years to think about what has happened, what's going to happen, and how he can make it better. And again, I go back to the point with, China, Mexico, Canada, everybody needs America more than we need them.
So you certainly know from the position in which you're sitting that the media does not handle short-term pain well at all because they get headlines out of it. Is there an appetite among congressional Republicans to stick with this plan and to be able to handle the barbs that come from the media and maybe even from constituents for some short-term pain like we're discussing for a long-term good? Because we know in Congress and the House of Representatives, the election cycle's 2 years. It's not 6 years like it is in the Senate. It's not 4 years for the White House. Yeah. We'll be talking about midterms in the blink of an eye.
That's it. It'll be here. I'll tell you this. I believe that the American people saw just how bad things were over the last 4 years. And the American people suffered tremendously. And I think on the short term, it's like most of us that have worked all of our lives, sometimes you have to kind of do without for a little while to get to the end goal to where you're going to get. I do believe that the people are going to stand with the president. And what we've got to do is fight off this liberal media, continual hack, beat us up kind of thing, and look at the long-term goals that the president has set for us to make things better for the American people. And I believe our people will stick with us.
Visiting with Congressman Mike Ezell, represents the 4th District from the southern part of the state of Mississippi. With every member of our delegation, I've asked about a farm bill. I've asked about help for farmers. We know that agriculture is such a big part of the state of Mississippi. How much discussion is going on, even if it's not on the floor of the House, about the farm bill and creating some relief for farmers?
Yes, absolutely. I had dinner last night with G.T. Thompson, the chairman of Ag, and I felt confident after having that conversation. I think it's going to be time that we kind of force the issue. And a lot of times it's just like on the vote last week. We had to get the president involved to get things done. The president knows how important farming is to this country. We feed the world. We feed ourselves. And I think it's time that we look at taking care of our farmers, our cattle farmers. We had the big drought last year in Mississippi, and so many of our farmers lost not only pine trees, cows, cattle, all sorts of losses. And the president knows that. If you just listen to him sometime, you'll see how he feels about the common man. And that's why the president, I believe, has been able to connect so well with everyday Americans, because he understands how to make, he got to make a payroll. You got to sell your cows. You got to sell your pine trees. You got to do all the things that we do in Mississippi. And I just believe that the president is going to work hard and he's going to push for this to happen. We got to take care of our farmers because they take care of the country.
Congressman, it's rare that we get a bill that is just about one issue. There's always other stuff that's thrown in there. Is there a scenario where a farm bill could be just about farming and it couldn't, and perhaps it doesn't have the SNAP program, food stamp programs, and a lot of other entitlements rolled into that bill as well?
The only way I think that could happen is if the president got directly involved in that thing and just really pushed it. There's so many things, like you just said, that are attached to it that have been going on for years. But what we're seeing now with this new administration is a change that has been coming. And I think if anybody could help get it done would be quarterback Donald Trump. And that's what we need. We need that stand, in my opinion. And I've only been here 2 years, but in my opinion, we need that so that we can take care of our farmers specifically. Because, again, I know the importance of what it's like to make a living on a farm. I have had family members and friends for years that do this.
Got a joint session of Congress tonight with the president speaking. Yeah. Mike Ezell will be there. Congressman, thank you so much for your time this morning. Great catching up, and look forward to visiting with you soon.
I got my Mississippi tie on for tonight.
Outstanding.
Mississippi tie on.
We appreciate your time.
Yes, sir.
We got more coming up with you. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk Mississippi. That was Congressman Mike Ezell.
From the
Grab another cup of coffee and start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross here on Super Talk Mississippi.
This is Lieutenant Governor Delbert Hoseman, and I'm honored to work for the state of Mississippi, and I'm honored to be on Mornings with Richard Cross.
Thanks for spending part of your morning on Super Talk Mississippi, MRC, Mornings with Richard Cross. We are glad to be with you today alongside Lance Tolbert. I'm Richard Cross. You want to join the conversation, you can do so on the C-Spire text line. The number is 601-879-4395. This hour of Mornings with Richard Cross is brought to you by MWG Employer Services. Running a business is tough, and if you're struggling with HR, benefits, and payroll, you're not alone. That's where MWG Employer Services comes in. They can provide a full range of employer services plus a custom plan that fits you. Give them a call today, 601-206-7966, or go to MWGEmployerServices.com. That's MWGEmployerServices.com. Forgive the behind the scenes. Lance, do I need to refresh VMix here? Did it freeze up?
You're very serious looking, yeah. Yeah, it's
okay.
A little froze up there.
I'm seeing just commercial breaks, so I'll see if I can refresh
I'm
that.
seeing you. It's in that very serious face, yeah.
All right, very good. So the conversation about tariffs is a fascinating one. I got a buddy that works in the construction industry. They provide a particular supply to people that are building really big buildings. And they do it all over the world. And he was texting me and pointed out that one of the things that would be helpful, maybe even necessary, like absolutely necessary in this tariff conversation, is a grace period for existing lump sum contracts. So you have a contract that is in place right now already, and you've already agreed on the terms of the deal. Let's just say it's a $20 million contract, and you already had a 10% tariff that was in place if you were dealing with China, and now there's an additional 10% tariff in place. Or if you're dealing with Mexico, there's now a 25% tariff in place when there wasn't previously a tariff in place. Where does that money come from? So he says that there is language in their particular contracts that protects them in the event of tariffs, but that's not the case. And the biggest hit is for the owner of the project or the Delta, because they have planned for a certain price. I don't know that that's a terrible idea, that you put a period in. Okay, if there are existing deals in place, those are allowed to proceed as is, but any new business gets those tariffs applied to them. I don't know if that's what makes the most sense or not. But he says with zero grace period on fixed lump sum contracts combined with high interest rates, it's going to be really painful for the construction industry. And I think there's something to what we were talking about a second ago in that, is there a willingness to endure a short-term pain to get to the place that we need to be and that we want to be, where America is in a stronger position long-term? And that's hard to do. And you heard the way that I couched the question with Congressman Ezell a second ago. For congressional Republicans, there is already a microscopic majority of Republicans in the House. And we're still waiting on a couple of appointments for positions that were put into the presidential cabinet where you lost some Republican seats, and those are going to be replaced by Republicans, but they haven't been yet. It hasn't happened yet. And so when you look at a 2-year election cycle for Congress, what do you do? How do you handle that in the short term? And is the appetite there for Republicans to stick to their guns and stick with the tariffs are right, what the president has said? And can they make it through an election cycle and get reelected? Because we can be kind of flippant sometimes about, all that an elected official is really worried about is their next election. And there's some truth to that. And sometimes the focus should be more on getting things done than just worrying about the next election. But the flip side of that is, how many times have you heard me say elections have consequences? Are the people who are doing the voting for the representatives going to stick with their representatives when, yes, eggs are historically expensive and construction costs are high and interest rates are high? Like, you got to be willing to make a long-term play and see if it's going to work, and we're not great with patience sometimes. Maybe not an issue in Mississippi, a very red state, but there are a lot of places where it's going to be a big issue.
Take a deep dive into the news and debates driving the day, all on your ride to work. Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi.
Again, thanks for being with us. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi. This hour of Mornings with Richard Cross is presented by Pine Grove Behavioral Health and Addiction Services in Hattiesburg. You can find them online at pinegrovetreatment.com, or you can give them a call at 1-888-574-HOPE. That's 1-888-574-4673. We're glad to be with you this morning and glad to welcome Danielle Morgan into the conversation. She is the executive director of the Mississippi Tourism Association and is kind enough to spend some time with us. Danielle, good morning to you.
Hi, Richard. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate very much you joining us. Let's dive right in. Over 130,000 jobs, 43 million visitors, $11.5 billion generated for the state of Mississippi because of tourism. What's going on?
Well, we are very busy. It's a really busy time of year for us, of course. Legislatively, that's a big time. A lot of what we do is advocacy on behalf of tourism. So lots happening there, of course. And we have our Capitol Day tomorrow, which we're very excited about to celebrate tourism's impact.
What is, not like a specific breakdown in terms of dollars, but what's the balance of tourism in Mississippi as you track it between people from other countries, people from outside Mississippi who are coming in to visit the coast or to see different parts of the state, versus people who are coming in for college sporting events. We know how big it is in Hattiesburg with Southern Miss and Oxford with Ole Miss and Starkville with Mississippi State. Is that tracked as part of tourism in Mississippi?
Oh, it definitely is. You know, we laugh and say our college towns say it's tremendous, but it's only 8 weekends a year. And we definitely have to also make sure we market the other 52. Well, I can't do the math, but make sure we do the other weekends where those sports events aren't happening. But of course, that's a tremendous driver. Our state has actually partnered with other cities in the SEC to make sure that visitors are experiencing those college towns while they're traveling for sports. So that's been a cool way they've connected.
What's the biggest driver of tourism in Mississippi right now?
You know, I think outdoor is we saw a huge surge in outdoor during COVID, but of course our music, history, culture, that is always going to be a tremendous driver for us in Mississippi. And then gaming too, you know, gaming's a big one.
Yeah. I'm always fascinated by the number of international people who, if they're doing a tour of the United States, whether it's because of literary culture or music culture or just kind of the state's history, that have Mississippi and a lot of different places in Mississippi on their bucket list or on their itinerary to come through, because there's just a lot that's there.
There really is, and we love international visitors. They typically stay anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks when they travel. They do vacation a lot better than we do, but we love those visitors. We love bringing them in. They love to kind of fly in, particularly for music history. You know, they'll fly into Nashville, come down through Memphis, then see where it all began in Mississippi, and then head out of New Orleans. So they kind of catch the full spectrum of music. And of course, one thing we know about international visitors, they want to do something none of their friends have done. So they've done the big, huge Disney. They've done the big attractions, but they want to see real Americana that's unusual. So we can provide that for sure.
What about the Blues Trail and the role that has played? I know that is something that is continuing to grow. It continues to attract people who come in, whether they want to see something about Muddy Waters, or they're looking to learn about Robert Johnson and the Crossroads and the history of the blues. What impact has that had, and do you see it continuing to grow?
You know, I think that we've got around, 250 markers in the state, and we have a few in other states and even a few in Europe. But, you know, I think that's been a tremendous way for people to understand our blues history and interpret some of those sites. You know, as you know, for many years, there wasn't any way, kind of if you were a local, you knew those local sites, but there was no way for a visitor to really experience those stories and learn about what happened here. And, you know, it's just a wealth of music history. I mean, I'm even surprised. I learned things new that I didn't know about Mississippi's contribution to music and culture every day. So I think it's been great. I think that now we're shifting a little more into focus on making sure we're promoting all of our trails well, maintaining our trails, all of those things. But yeah, it's been great, especially during COVID. People could get out and do that and not talk to anyone, and it was a great tool for us at that time.
I'm curious, as we visit with Danielle Morgan, she's executive director of the Mississippi Tourism Association. What's the relationship between your office at the state level with local municipalities? Festivals are such a big deal. Whether you're talking about, cruising the coast down on the Mississippi Gulf Coast, or Double Decker in Oxford, or Prairie Arts Festival in West Point, or I don't know, the Watermelon Carnival in Water Valley, Mississippi. What's the relationship between Mississippi tourism and local tourism within Mississippi?
So we work very closely with our local partners. Of course, they're the boots on the ground, and we are a grassroots organization, so we depend on them to make sure that that we know what's going on around the state. Of course, Visit Mississippi, the state tourism agency, they also provide some grant opportunities for those events, particularly to get them off the ground, whether they're new, and also just making sure that we're promoting those and connecting those dots. We produce the state tour guide, and so we have it's a great resource for a calendar if you want to see events by month in every region of the state. So we definitely want to do our part to get that word out there, because that is some of our festivals and events are really one of the greatest experience for our visitors and residents.
Yeah, no question about that. Danielle, so we've seen some surrounding states, Alabama, Tennessee, Arkansas, that have brought tourism officially in-house, kind of under the state government umbrella. Is there a scenario where that makes sense? Is that a conversation that's happening here in Mississippi?
Yes, actually, we've looked at a lot of other states for years. We've kind of studied those models and what's working well. You have to know your competition, as you know. So we have worked hard to make sure that we're in the best position to grow tourism. So our states, actually, we have a bill this year that is Senate Bill 2573 that is considering making tourism an independent agency. It currently lives under the Mississippi Development Authority, but it's a bill that would make it a independent agency that was a cabinet level position that reported directly to the governor.
Why would that be beneficial?
I think really just prioritizing tourism's Mississippi's fourth largest industry, but also it is very important to our development in the future, making sure we strengthen our communities, provide quality of life opportunities for talent, keeping our best and brightest here in Mississippi. That's something we're really focused on. And, we say it all starts with a visit, and the visit starts with us. Tourism is the first date of development.
Kind of like the front porch, right? It's the first thing you see. You got to have your front porch in order. Just a couple of minutes left with Danielle Morgan. In terms of priorities for you going forward, you mentioned that today or tomorrow is Capitol Day. You'll be in Jackson with legislators and other tourism professionals, and really kind of a spotlight there. So in terms of your to-do list, the things that are on the horizon, what's the big project right now?
I think just making sure that we're very intentional in how we grow tourism. Mississippi was a leader in tourism recovery, thanks to the strategic investment by the legislature. They took some of those federal dollars and really grew our tourism footprint. So I feel that we're at an inflection point now of where we go from here, and how I just hope that we can be really thoughtful in making sure that however we continue to invest in tourism is going to be what impacts our state the most, and also stops the brain drain, creates great communities for residents. Like I said, a great place to visit is a great place to live. We know that. So we want to make sure that we're providing those opportunities to continue to improve our state.
Is there any way to track that? People who visit Mississippi and they're like, man, this is a really good spot, that ultimately decide to go with a relocation?
We should track that. We do track visitors in a lot of ways, but I'm not sure there's a great mechanism for that. But that's definitely something to think about. We've seen there's a cool study about the halo effect of tourism and how it impacts people's decisions to move to the state, invest in the state. So we know that it's a game changer.
Danielle, thanks so much for your time. We wish you all the best, safe travels in some yucky weather today, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks so much, Richard. Have a great day.
Danielle Morgan, Executive Director of the Mississippi Tourism Association. She is joining us this morning in a really good conversation there. We're going to take a time out. We've got more coming up with you. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
From Duck Hill to Alligator, Mississippians start their day the right way. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
C-Spire text line is open to you, 601-879-4395. Give your business the edge with gigabit fiber internet from C-Spire. You can learn more about them online at cspire.com/business. C-Spire, customer inspired. The number for the C-Spire text line, 601-879-4395. If you're in the market for a new or previously owned vehicle, I'd love to tell you about my friends at Belk Ford and Oxford Toyota. They're located on Highway 6 West in Oxford. You start with selection, right? You want to buy a vehicle. You don't necessarily want to order a vehicle, and so you go to a lot that's got a bunch of vehicles on it so that you've got choices. They've got an incredible selection right now, whether you're looking for an F-150, the F-250, the Super Duty, or perhaps an Expedition, or maybe it's a pre-owned vehicle. You can check out the incredible selection at Belk Ford and Oxford Toyota. Got a couple of those new Toyota Land Cruisers on the lot. Those things are fantastic looking. It's one of those where it takes just a little while to get used to it, and then you're like, man, I like that a lot. Check them out. But you're not just looking for selection. You're looking for a relationship. Belk Ford would love the opportunity to build a relationship with you. Doesn't matter if you live on the coast, in the Pine Belt, in the Delta, or you're in North Mississippi. They'd love to help. Check them out online, belkford.net, oxfordtoyota.com. Or the next time you're in North Mississippi, stop by, say hello, and tell them that you heard about it on Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. There's a better way at Belk. Alongside Lance Tolbert, I'm Richard Cross. We are glad to be with you this morning. We'll take a quick sample from the C-Spire text line. Somebody not pleased with a not-so-hard-hitting interview about tourism. I'm not exactly sure the direction you would want me to go with that, but I'm certainly open to suggestions. We'll take the constructive criticism. Somebody sent us a picture of one of the Blues Trail markers and said, hey, I'm on the one in Brookhaven. That's Walt. Good for you, Walt. Very cool. Met a few guys from Denmark, who were touring the Blues Trail. You know, we had a conversation a while back with the executive director of the birthplace of Elvis Presley. And, Lance, I remember we were talking about not just the number of visitors, but the number of international visitors who, you know, they want to come and see Graceland. They want to do kind of an Elvis Presley tour, and they run multiple buses a day from Memphis to Tupelo for the birthplace. For music lovers all over the world, it's a really, really big deal.
I mean, he's the king, right?
He is the king.
And he is big everywhere. And it's really amazing to me, at working in tourism a while back, just the number of people from all over the world that come here with the love of music. Elvis obviously is somewhat of a starting point for a lot, but the blues side of it too, it blows you away at how many Europeans and folks from all over are just blown away with the blues. And Elvis kind of starts us out with the rock and roll, taking it from the blues to the rock and roll side. So, I mean, it's just amazing the layers of awesomeness and the talented people that we have here, as far as musicians, actors, entertainers, sports, and great thinkers and writers. So, yeah, this is a gold mine. If you want to come to the birthplace of America's music, bring it on, because we're ready for you.
And the influence that the blues had on all of the other genres of music.
It's
right?
It's the baseline, isn't it?
Rock and roll, country, yeah, it really is. Really, really is. Going back to the conversation about tariffs, but not specifically tariffs, more like economic policy and trying to get the United States on a more sustainable path. C-Spire text line, I don't think the majority is willing to endure pain to fix our issues. I personally am. Nothing is insurmountable excepting death. I'm painting with a very, very large brush here, but I'm including myself in this. We're not great at pain. Certainly not economic pain. Certainly not pain related to denying fun or having to make big boy and big girl decisions. Like, we're always looking for a way around that. Like, how can I avoid? How can I still buy this? How can I still go on this trip? How can I still do that, even if I can't really afford it or it's not the most wise decision? I mean, the level of discipline that's going to be necessary if we genuinely want to tackle debt as a country, deficit as a country, and it's putting policy in place and then sticking with that policy even if it's uncomfortable for a while. The United States of America is, I don't even think there's any debate, it's the most comfortable country in the world. We have more, we spend more, we do more, and getting away from those things is really, really hard to do. Is there an appetite for getting through a time where prices are a little higher, where there are some uncomfortable conversations that have to be had to put us on a more sustainable path going forward? I don't know.
I mean, I'll say one thing. ACA, when it was passed, people's insurance went up 400%. So you didn't hear a lot of, that was difficult. I can tell you from somebody that worked in that world. I mean, what did it take off the table of a lot of people? Food, the ability to save money and all this stuff. So, we've been going through tough times, whether people want to admit it or not. Well, we need to chisel the fat and try to flip this imbalance back to where people are buying our goods and we're buying our goods too. Making more stuff, being able to save money, lowest savings rate, the most obese we've ever been. These are things that are true. And it's not like it happened yesterday, right, Richard? I mean, this stuff's been going on for a while, and it's going to take time.
Multiple administrations on both sides of the aisle are responsible for the fiscal mess that we're in. 100%.
So, yeah, the commitment's going to have to be more than two years. It's going to be more than 4 years. That doesn't mean that things are going to be tight and tough. Nobody's going to be able to have pizza on Friday nights and all that or go to the movies. That's not the case, I don't think. But there will be some changes because we've been addicted to what we've been doing for so long. The fat's got to get trimmed, as one of our texters says. That's the reality. And you either do it now or you're going to have to do it some other time when it's much more painful.
Yeah, and Moe's is a good analogy. It's one that I think we've used before. It's like you got to make a mess before you can get it clean, right? You know that storage room. You know the one I'm talking about. The one where you got some tools, you got some coolers, you got some supplies. There's a box or several boxes in there that you don't even know what's in them. But to clean up that storage room or that workshop and make it look good and make it functional, make it usable, you got to pull all the crap out. And, man, when you're about 2 hours into that job of pulling all the crap out, you look around and you're like, what have I done? Look, I can't stop now because the mess is worse than it ever was. But then you start putting it back and you throw the stuff out that you don't need. And the stuff that's in that box that you didn't even know was there, that can go to the dumpster. And you tidy up a little bit and you straighten your shelves and you lay out your tools. And you got the batteries for your tools and you put them in a place where they all charge in one spot. And you look up in a little while and you're like, man, why didn't I do this forever ago?
And, boy, it makes you feel better.
It makes you feel better. It's really no different with what we're talking about right now in terms of the United States' economic future. It's going to be messy for a little while. And we may even push into this thing where we get a little bit into it. You're like, what are we doing? This is a disaster. This is so much. At least I knew where that box was, but I can't even find it now. And you start kind of putting things back together, and you get to the end, and you're like, man, why did I wait so long to do this? This is awesome. Hopefully that's the direction we're headed in. You can join us on the C Spire text line, 601-879-4395. Thomas in Greenwood, wait, this means my Chinese AR parts from PSA will go up. That's a big ask, friends. Yeah, when it starts hitting something that matters to you, Thomas, all of a sudden, I don't know about this. Somebody says, look at our country's founders, self-sacrifice.
Yeah, George Washington had wooden teeth, right?
How about an interesting take from a columnist at the Washington Post who is very pro-Ukraine? We'll listen to what he said about Zelensky when we come back.
From the Morning, Mississippi. You're starting your day off right. Welcome to Mornings with Richard Cross here on Super Talk, Mississippi.
I hear you working in a saloon. I hear you work for midnight.
Donald in Oxford on the C Spire text line with a message. This is interesting. He said, I attended a meeting last July. The keynote speaker was a Chicago commodities trader, showed how they use their analysis to predict futures. It was crazy, but they predicted that if there was going to be a recession, it would be Q1 2025, regardless of who was president. I don't think we're there right now. I mean, prices are higher than they have been, but people are still spending money.
And there's always the probabilities.
Maybe a micro recession.
Well, there's probabilities. It could, things go wrong, things get bad. It could happen, and overreactions all the time happen in the market, and generally they correct themselves. It generally reverts back to the mean.
Yeah. Lance and Richard, have you guys covered the pause on aid to Ukraine? I'm interested to know your opinion on what's in the deal that would make Putin stop his pursuit of the land. Keep up the good work. That's from Brandon in Brookhaven. Brandon, I'm not speaking for Lance. This is me. And I think it's a simple answer to a complicated question. The United States, in my view, has decided that the minerals deal is in the best interest of us going forward. We, President Trump, believe that the war needs to stop, that the loss of life needs to end in that war that Ukraine cannot win. And the little circus that we saw at the White House on Friday was kind of an inflection point. There was an opportunity there for Zelensky to do the deal. And he is dead set on, we're not agreeing to a ceasefire without guaranteed security from the United States. And Trump says, we're not giving you that. Not in terms, we might do it, but we're not putting it in writing. We're not going to guarantee it. We are not signing up for this endless war or any future endless war because of the inability for Ukraine and Russia to get along. And I mean, I'll use a phrase that I used earlier, where multiple things can be true. Russia, under the leadership of Vladimir Putin, is in the wrong for invading another sovereign country. Period. Like, full stop. They started it. But you get to a point in a war where it doesn't matter who started it, it needs to end. And concessions are part of ending a war. So your question is, or maybe you didn't. Maybe I asked this question. Oh, you said, what's in the deal that would make Putin stop his pursuit of the land? While the United States is not going to guarantee the security of Ukraine in perpetuity, the United States will guarantee the security of its own business interests. And if there is a profitable business partnership that exists between our country and Ukraine, then it's almost like a de facto security guarantee.
Yeah, as long as we're not putting 26 biological laboratories back over there. I mean, things like that. Yeah, business is business, but some of the craziness that's been going on has to stop.
I don't know how you can look at some of the actions that have been taken by Volodymyr Zelensky and think anything other than that he wants the war to continue.
Well, he'd have to hold an election if the war was over.
War ends, he's got to hold an election.
Then we might see
war
what the Ukrainians say.
And the endless supply of money from the United States and other places stops. And then on the ceasefire text line, to be clear, the U.S. is leveling punishing tariffs on its allies while discussing easing sanctions on Russia. Allies, yes. Friends, maybe. But the tariffs that the United States is leveling on Mexico and Canada, its allies, its friends, are to punish those countries for not being good friends and for not being good allies, for allowing the unfettered access of illegals and drugs to come across the borders. And if Trump is going to go with this America First policy, which clearly he is, then you have to control your borders. And we've seen that, right? We talked about the border numbers earlier this morning. They're just a hair over 8,000 interactions at the southern border in the month of February. It's down from, I don't have the numbers in front of me, or that graph in front of me, down from 78,000 a year ago and 130,000 a couple of years ago in February. It's like a 90%, 95% reduction in 5 weeks in office. After Joe Biden lied to your face and he said, there's absolutely nothing I can do in terms of an executive order. I've done all I can do. You knew he was lying. He knew he was lying. We all knew he was lying. And Trump has proved that he was lying. All right, I mentioned this Washington Post column, or columnist from the Washington Post, who has been very pro-Ukraine. And he kind of unpacked the meeting with Zelensky. He says the blow-up was Zelensky's fault. To understand why, one needs to watch the entire 50-minute meeting unfold. Trump was gracious in the way he greeted Zelensky, praising the courage and resilience of the Ukrainian people, and dismissed their earlier rift as a little negotiation spat. Even after Zelensky refused a White House request to wear a suit, Trump praised his outfit, saying, I think he's dressed beautifully. Trump extolled the minerals deal they had reached and said, we look forward to getting in and digging, publicly pledged to continue military aid to Ukraine, and even held out the possibility that he could conceivably commit U.S. troops alongside British and French troops to provide security after a peace deal was reached. That should have been music to Zelensky's ears. He should have taken the win. Instead, about 24 minutes in, long before his terse exchange with Vice President J.D. Vance, Zelensky started criticizing Trump in front of the assembled reporters. He summarily dismissed Trump's idea of an immediate ceasefire, something that is extremely important to Trump, who is committed to stopping the killing, because he said Putin has already broken ceasefires 25 times. Trump replied, he never broke to me. No, you were the president, Zelensky contradicted him. He never broke to me, Trump repeated. And instead of letting it pass, Zelensky contradicted him again. In 2016, you've been the president, Mr. President. That's why we will never accept just a ceasefire. It will not work without security guarantees. So you got Zelensky live fact-checking Trump in a meeting in the Oval Office. Trump talked about being sad about the destruction of Ukrainian cities, and then Zelensky interrupted him. He said, no, you have to come, Mr. President. You have to come and look. No, we have very good cities. It's Putin that's sharing this information that he destroyed us, but Trump was right, according to the columnist. Many Ukrainian cities have been destroyed. Volodymyr Zelensky blew this meeting up, and it really turned when a Polish journalist asked Trump whether he had aligned himself too much with Putin. And this is where we started the clip yesterday when Trump was saying, you want me to say really terrible things about Putin and then say, and this is where he kind of went into character, hi, Volodymyr, how you doing? How we doing on the deal? It doesn't work that way. And then J.D. Vance jumped in. And then Zelensky felt compelled to respond to Vance, and it spiraled out of control there. So again, this was an editorial from Mark Thiessen, columnist at the Washington Post, very pro-Ukraine, and he writes that what Zelensky did was insane, unnecessary, and inexplicable. And the sooner people admit that, instead of creating their own alter universe, the sooner a possible fix will arise. All right. We're going to lighten things up at the end. Saw a graphic on Twitter that made me laugh. The United States of sandwiches. What is the most popular sandwich in each state in our country? Send us on the C Spire text line. What do you think the most popular sandwich is in Mississippi? We'll wrap it up with you next. Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi.
From the being said in the halls of the Capitol, you're in the right place. Mornings with Richard Cross continues on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Now in the street there is violence, and then a lot of work to be done. No place to hang out or washing, and then I can't blame all on the sun. Oh no, we're gonna rock down to 11.
One last time with you this morning. It is Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi. This is where you come for the really hard-hitting news, like what is the best sandwich in each state in the United States of America. This is simply a post that I found on X, and I'm sure it will create derision. So, Lance, should we start with Mississippi, or should we start with, like, working around Mississippi?
Yeah, Nebraska's gets me. The Blackstone Reuben. But go ahead. Yeah, whatever you want to roll with first. I'm like, what is that?
All right, so let's just do Mississippi. So this is all 50 states with the most popular sandwich in each state. For Mississippi, they go with the grilled shrimp po' boy. They describe it as battered shrimp tossed in a spicy, buttery garlic sauce and topped with lettuce, tomato, mayonnaise, and pickles. I don't really have an issue with that, although I feel like it should be a fried shrimp po' boy and not a grilled shrimp po' boy.
Yeah. Swinging miss,
But is that not a little more Louisiana? Should it not be like a fried catfish po' boy for Mississippi?
Yeah, I think the grilled shrimp po' boy is a good choice, but yeah, the fried shrimp side, I would go with that one first. But it does have a little bit more of a South Mississippi kind of Louisiana feel. Louisiana's is the muffaletta, obviously. So I'm with you. We're known for our catfish, though.
We'll rip through these. Alabama, pulled chicken with white barbecue sauce.
Okay.
I got no issue with that. For Alaska, a salmon sandwich. Arizona, Navajo taco, an open-faced sandwich, fried flatbread with meat, beans, cheese, and lettuce. Arkansas went with the fried bologna sandwich.
Good choice.
For California, a French dip.
Of course, a French sandwich for California.
That's about right. Colorado, the Denver sandwich, an omelet between 2 slices of bread with eggs, ham, cheddar, onions, and sautéed peppers.
Sounds good to me.
Connecticut going with a hot lobster roll.
Nice.
For Delaware, they say the Bobby. It's basically Thanksgiving on a roll with turkey, cranberry sauce, stuffing, and mayonnaise.
Ooh, I couldn't do that one.
Oh, I disagree. I don't want that year-round, but that sandwich on Thanksgiving night is...
Delish, huh?
Oh, it's like manna from the heavens.
All right, I'm going to have to give it a try then. I trust the cross.
You never had a turkey and dressing sandwich?
No. I microwave that stuff and get it where it's scorching. And I got to do it.
You need some white bread, preferably Wonder Bread, little mayonnaise on there, some turkey, some dressing. Some people like to throw some banana peppers on there. That's not necessarily my favorite thing. You want a little bit of flavor, you can throw some cranberry sauce on there. Oh, so good. Florida, the Cuban. What a great option.
Yes.
I love a Cuban. Georgia, pimento cheese sandwich. Perhaps an ode to Augusta there. Let's skip around. Let's just stay in the South. Kentucky, kind of in the South. A Kentucky hot brown. Muffaletta for Louisiana. Missouri, not in the South, but part of the SEC, a hot salami sandwich. Let me give you one more reason why Missouri shouldn't be in the SEC. There you go.
That's it, the hot salami, huh?
North Carolina, pulled pork.
Yeah.
Couldn't you make an argument that the pulled pork sandwich should be Mississippi's as well?
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Let's see here. Oklahoma, chicken fried steak sandwich.
I love a chicken fried steak.
Tennessee, they go with the Elvis. Peanut butter, banana, bacon.
Nice.
Texas, smoked brisket. Yes, sir. South Carolina, where I sit right now, the pulled pork with gold sauce. That's mustard-based sauce.
Yeah,
are they vinegar-based? No, they're vinegar-based.
Well, then you got Virginia, too, in there. The country ham sandwich. Sounds pretty good.
Where?
Virginia. Virginia.
Yeah, the country ham. That's a good one.
Yeah. Wyoming with a trout sandwich. I've not heard of that one.
West Virginia. I feel like they missed the point of the exercise because they say a sausage biscuit.
Breakfast sandwich.
Wisconsin, a grilled cheese. That's on brand. So, anyway.
I wouldn't have guessed it. This one, the Utah one, I wouldn't have guessed in Utah. A pastrami burger. I don't see the connection, but yeah, sounds pretty good.
New York went with pastrami on rye. I think that's the right call for New York. Pork chop sandwich in Montana.
Montana, bringing the heat.
What is this for Massachusetts? The sandwich in Massachusetts is the fluffernutter, which sounds wonderful, but it's not a sandwich. This sticky, sweet, delicious sandwich is comprised of marshmallow fluff and peanut butter.
That's dessert.
That's dessert. Thanks for being with us on this Tuesday morning. For my running buddy Lance, I'm Richard Cross. This is Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. Stay safe, be weather aware, and I don't know, have a sandwich. Have a great day.
A SuperTalk Mississippi media production.